You're listening to On the Couch with Dr. Michelle, right here on LA Talk Radio.
Welcome, everybody, as you always are here on Tuesday afternoons, 12 Pacific Standard Time. No, we're now in Daylight Savings Time, but it's PST all over the world, wherever you're at. Thanks so much for joining us here on the couch. And we have a great show today. What an amazing guest. I've been really trying to get Sherry on my show for such a long time. We finally got together. We finally hooked it up. Yay, Sherry, we did it.
Yeah. And we're local. We're not that far from each other.
That's right. I love it. So I'm going to start out to the viewers and listeners right now by asking you a few questions.
You got it.
Guys, girls, are you really tired of consistently being drawn to toxic partners who are emotionally or even physically abusive or manipulative? Are you tired of that? Are you so desperate to keep a relationship alive that you'll do almost anything to support your partner? I know. I mean, are you becoming codependent? Unintentionally, it just happens, right? Well, if you guys are ready to break these patterns and you want to find healthy relationships, you can't leave the show today because my guest is an expert. She's going to help you. And her name is Sherry Gaba. She is your guide right now. Hi, Sherry. Welcome to the show.
Hi, Michelle. Would you like me to say Dr. Michelle or Michelle?
Michelle's great.
Okay. Well, I'm just excited to be here and for you giving me this platform today. And just a note that you were, like I was telling the producer, you were ahead of your time, Michelle, doing this internet podcast radio stuff. So I'm impressed.
Thank you so much. It's been, I've with the help of Sam, who is our producer of all the shows, actually, and the owner. He's made it possible. He is the pioneer. He's the man who rocks it.
Yes, he's a trailblazer. I mean, I was in that studio years ago, and it's great that now you've kind of moving into a remote world like the rest of us.
Exactly. We can do this. We can do this. Let me introduce you all to Sherry. Sherry Gaba is a licensed psychotherapist. There's a lot to be said here, and I could take up probably half an hour of the show talking about her accolades here, but I'll try to make it as concise as I can. She is a psychotherapist, LCSW, life coach, media relationship expert, and author. And we're also going to be talking about her latest book today. It's called, and I love this, Sherry, it's called Love Smacked. Can you it's a visual, right? How to stop the cycle of relationship addiction, codependency, and toxic partnerships. So what Sherry does, and I'll just give this a brief so you can elaborate more on this for us, Sherry. She helps people cope with codependency, love addiction, toxic relationships, and mental health issues. She's also the author of Infinite Recovery, 6 Steps of Mindfulness, Positive Thinking, and the Law of Attraction to Break Free of Addiction. And Sherry is a contributing author, writer to the book Chicken Soup for the Soul, Tough Times, Tough People. And as a leading expert on addiction and recovery and relationships, you've probably also seen Sherry on VH1 Celebrity Rehab. I know you've seen her on Inside Edition, CNN, The Robert Irvine Show, Access Live, E! News, among others. And of course, she hosts her own show, The Love Fix. You got to see that podcast. It's really great. Anyway, you're also the founder of Wake Up Recovery, right? Are you working with that as well, Sherry?
Right. I have a membership where it's online coaching, and it's a place where people can work with me live with other people going through similar issues such as love addiction or toxic relationships. So I would love to give out the link or put it in your show notes and people can check it out. It's a wonder. There are many wonderful things. Now we can work with the world and we can make things available. So that's really, that's why I formed this beautiful community.
What a great idea. That's amazing. Well, thank you so much for being on the show today. This is going to be great. And because I know you have a lot of patients who are going through this and have gone through this for years. I mean, it's like, and I think also with COVID, a lot of people have sort of stuck with partners for fear of getting outside of their, comfort zone,
Mm,
right?
that's
Mhm.
right.
Yeah, that's what's been going on. But I'd really like to know more about your story.
Oh,
So,
okay.
what made you become, a leader and an expert in relationships, especially toxic relationships?
Well, what happened was my whole thing was addiction for after I did VH1 Celebrity Rehab. I was working
Mhm.
with addiction,
Right.
alcoholism, worked at a rehab in Malibu. I was married to an alcoholic. And one
Mm.
day I just realized, everything is about him. I'm like,
Oh,
what's
yeah.
here?
Uh,
I'm like, it's about him. And I thought, I need to take a look at this and kind of peel back the layers of my own
yeah,
life because that's
sure.
we have, we're human. So
Yep.
I really did have codependent and love addicted traits. And so I
Oh,
got myself a fantastic trauma therapist. And that's really how it kind of switched over from addiction to working in this field, because really there are rehabs all over the place, but who's really helping the person who's the codependent, the love addict? And
right.
as love addicts, if you learn as I go into what love addiction
Yeah,
is,
sure, sure, sure.
more prone to pick toxic relationships because
Yes.
you'll settle for less. So
Right.
I'm not sure your audience
Exactly.
love addiction is. I'm happy to go into that if you'd like.
Yeah, I'd love that. And if you could define more what relationship addiction is, and I love also talking about some of those signs because ad nauseum, I know you have talked to your patients and said, "Okay, now I want you to just really, really hear this. If this is what's going on, So,
Yeah, well, it's important to not be feeling shameful, or it's not about shame or blame. There are reasons that we got to this place. You being a
yeah,
therapist understand that. Love addiction's a process addiction. So it's not like a substance. When you
mhm,
think of things like food or shopping or dating or exercise, those are all process addictions or
right,
lifestyle addictions, soft addictions. But it's the same, it has the same result as a substance abuse. So when the
right.
break occurs, there's this longing for that attachment to that
Oh
person.
yeah, oh
Um,
yeah,
you want all those pleasurable feelings just like an addict would. So you have the withdrawal symptoms. And then codependency is kind of coupled with that, where you start adapting to what other people want, because the biggest thing with love addicts is they don't want to be alone. They fear
right.
abandonment. They have separation anxiety, and they have
Mm,
anxious attachment styles, which are some of the things that I
right.
dealt with from early trauma. So there's this fear of being alone, fear of the unknown. They're always they're kind of putting themselves into a pretzel position to fit
Yeah,
in.
yeah, exactly.
Right. And then you're going to be more prone to settle because of this. And you need a lot of validation. You need a lot of affirmation. You fear abandonment. You have the same withdrawal symptoms. And you just want to
Yes.
give up who you are because you really lose yourself, because you'll do whatever it takes to not be alone. And that was my
Oh, yeah.
story. In my book,
Yeah,
Act, I talk about the different
right.
relationships. And there's so much shame around that when people
Yeah.
have been married more than once, which I have. And I want people to say, no more shame. Let's eradicate the shame. There are reasons
Mhm.
to this place.
Right. And, people do keep repeating the same patterns until they finally decide to come to a specialist. And they say, What's going on here? Well, here I go again. I found someone else who's almost a carbon copy of my last woman or man." So, what's up with that?
Exactly. Right.
Mm,
Well, it's
yeah.
basically same
Mm,
face, different name,
mhm.
the same person.
Yes, exactly.
So some people don't even know
They
what
do that, don't they?
toxic relationship. They think, there's a lot of overuse of the word narcissistic abuse. If you go on Instagram, I even do a lot of posts
Sure.
about it on my
Yeah.
Instagram, which is called Codependency Curious. But these are the
Yep.
things you look for. And as a love addict, you're going to be more prone to someone where you're
Okay.
ruminating, obsessing about them. These are some of the signs that you're in a toxic relationship.
Mm,
You are really
okay.
noticing all the
Yeah.
subtle changes in their texts. You can't stop ruminating over them. You're
Yeah.
walking eggshells, because you're always worried, are they going to leave me? Are they going
Right.
to stay? You feel guilty for everything because toxic individuals will blame you for everything. And if you're with a full-blown
Right.
narcissist, they have no empathy. They can't see your point of view. There's a lot
Right.
of intensity, a lot of fighting, a lot of manipulation, a lot of control. Um,
Mm,
they they often insult you, criticize, yell at you, devalue you. It can
Yes.
lead to domestic violence, which is the worst kind of abuse, disrespect, dishonesty, betrayal, cheating. But and the biggest thing is that you find yourself kind of losing yourself. You lack self,
Yes.
and you stop taking care of yourself emotionally,
Right.
physically, because you're making this person your whole life. So
Right.
those are the signs of being neglected.
Uh-huh. And it's almost like we become brainwashed and we question ourselves. It's like, wow, maybe I am like that, and that's triggering on old messages maybe we got when we were really young. And especially, when as we have all learned, right, the term gaslight us. It's gaslighting. Can you
Right.
share more about that, what that means?
So gaslighting is crazy making. It came from a movie, I think it was called Gaslight.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
he was making her crazy, telling him that the lights were, I don't remember the details,
Right.
but
Right.
it's where there's no congruence between what you say and what is. And so you start
Ah,
to question your reality. And
right.
the reason love addicts, codependents might be more prone to this second guessing themselves, because if you look at their early trauma, they
Yeah.
didn't really have that bonding, that connection. So they didn't really have a sense of who they are. So then they end up with this guy or woman that's gaslighting them, and they're like, I don't know what the reality is. I never knew what
Right.
the reality is, because my reality is everything related to you. So you start to believe these lies.
Yes.
And
Yes.
it's really powerful, and you get addicted
Right.
to these relationships.
Mm-hmm.
And
Yes.
it's very hard to get out, because
Yeah.
your self-esteem has really been knocked,
It really has, and part of that also gaslighting is what I've heard is, a lot of the people who are toxic, say to their partners, "Are you okay? You seem a little off. Is there something bothering you? I mean, I don't think you're remembering things correctly." They start to mess with your head again to ask questions.
And if
You
you
know,
haven't done the work, and
yeah,
you have this history of trauma, and
right,
you don't feel grounded in who you are, you don't have an authentic self, you
yeah,
are going to be more prone to believing that stuff.
yeah,
What's so confusing is when they first meet you, they do what's called love bombing.
right,
Constantly, they're kind of sucking you in, and this is their manipulation technique. And they're telling you things like, "Oh, I love everything about you. I've never met anyone like you. We're soulmates." I mean, I had a guy last year tell me, on our first date, "I'm going to
yeah.
marry you," which is just hysterical.
Oh my God.
Pardon me? Sorry, what?
That's scary.
I would say so.
Yeah.
Very scary. But they're
Yeah.
texting you all the time, and they're telling you how fabulous you are. They're giving you gifts, they're sending you flowers. They're convincing you that you're soulmates, we're born to be together. It's fate that we met, all these crazy things.
Yeah. Yeah.
But the biggest thing that you want to look for is when you try to set a boundary, which already is difficult for codependent
Yes.
love addicts. They have very loosey-goosey boundaries. But if you try and this person gets upset, you're definitely dealing with a toxic person, because they do not adhere to boundaries. There's like no way they want to do what they're just not going to do it. No is not in the vocabulary.
Right, exactly. And they keep pursuing and pursuing, and they, just sort of test. If you pull back and you do draw boundaries, they probably won't pull back, or they may a little bit, but then they'll wait until you're vulnerable again.
Right. Well, that's the cycle of abuse, where
yes,
they, you'll just, we call it the honeymoon phase, but it'll be really sweet, but the tension is building, and then all of a sudden it's back again, devaluing you, criticizing you. So it's this, and that's that crazy making, because one minute they're really like, come here, go away, come here, go away. And it's a dance. And unfortunately, love addict codependents are prone to getting into these kind of relationships. And that has a lot.
So what is, yeah. So that makes so much sense. What is the difference between being in love in a real normal, as we say, normal relationship, and sort of being obsessed?
Right.
Or, yeah.
Okay. So in obsession, you're ruminating. You're constantly thinking about this person. It's not a slow and steady romance. It's very fast. It's very furious.
Yeah.
Healthy relationships slow, steady. You get to know someone. When you first meet someone, you fall in love instantly. Sure, you think about them constantly, and
Mhm.
you start to fantasize about a future together. This is more the obsessive type of love.
Uh-huh.
You
Uh-huh.
overwhelm partners with attention. You feel
Mhm. Mhm.
ability to fix them. You're not authentic. You turn
Yeah.
yourself into a pretzel so they'll want you. You're
Mm.
hyper vigilant. You overreact to the slightest
Mm.
sign that they're moving away because you have that anxious
Right.
attachment
Yeah.
style. And then you feel lost, empty, and your self-worth is just, down, it's in the toilet. Healthy love is it's just not that. It's nurture,
Yeah.
it's safe. I think, it's a secure attachment. It's where you feel like you can count on this person, you can trust this person. You're not
Yeah.
scared, you're not anxious. Uh,
Yes.
you would think people know this, but a lot of people
Yeah.
really don't know this.
I know. And it's just, this is wonderful because books like yours and classes like yours and therapy like yours is this is what people need to learn about and hear about. So by the way, let me just share with
Honest-
everybody. Go ahead, Sherry.
Oh, go ahead. No, but some people still believe in that, that fairy
Yeah.
tale fantasy. You have a grandchild. I have a granddaughter and a
Yeah.
grandson. She's still reading about princesses. I took her to a Disney
Right.
show, and it's like we're still 2022 and we're still talking about somebody saving you. And
Right.
that's where it begins, really.
Wow. That makes a lot of sense. I mean, I don't know about you, but I was just that my favorite, with Cinderella. I'm going to be saved from that whole story. I want to go on the stage show and see it and live it, from when I was
It's
a little
in
kid.
your DNA. I mean, you
Yeah.
grow up with that
Yeah.
kind of pop culture,
Right.
and you really believe that someone is going to fix everything. But that isn't to say that when you meet the right
Right.
person and you feel secure and you feel
Right.
protected and you feel like you can count on this person, there's nothing wrong with that. But it
Exactly.
has to start with you, and that you have to have a connection to yourself. And if you have
Mm.
trauma, which I had, and I was premature, and in those days, I'm 63.
Yeah.
And in those days, mothers were not allowed to hold the premature baby. So I was in an incubator
Right.
for 3 months. Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah, I know. It's
Yeah.
really sad.
I mean, it really is sad. But
Well,
it's
you know that we need the
yeah.
bonding, we need the
Mhm.
nurturing. And
Oh,
so
yeah.
I really, from the get-go, was looking for love outside of myself. And that's
That's
really what
right.
love addicts do. We want to be loved. And so that's why the trauma therapy is, I don't know if you do trauma therapy, Michelle, but I'm sure you do, but
I
that's
do.
so important. Because until you release that, until you really learn how to regulate your nervous system, you're going to constantly be, hyper vigilant, fight or flight.
Boy.
Please. The newest one is fawn. You're going to become a people pleaser. So we got to get that trauma with resolved. And
God, is that true?
that's the heart of all of this, really.
It really is. And as you pointed out, Sherry, people, oh my God, it can start so early. I mean, right after birth. These are imprints that we're all of a sudden, this is how we survive, So my goodness, girl, you had early imprints.
I had real early imprints. And then when finally there was a name for it, like, oh, I have trauma from
Yes.
not being held, from not being
Aw.
at that
Yeah.
early, you see with your grandchildren or
Sure.
with your child that
Yeah.
you mirror and you look at
Oh
them,
my God.
connection. Well, if you don't
Right.
do that, you're always kind of out there in the ethers, trying to get what you need. And so I had to do a lot of really hard work. And after my last divorce, I'm like, I'm not doing this anymore. I am going to get the help I need, even as a therapist. And I tell people that because, again, we're just human, Michelle. We're just, we got our own stuff that we're always working out. And I'm grateful that I found the right person and I've been able to take this work into the world. And I'm not ashamed to talk about it. So that's my story. And other people
Good for you, girl.
have
That's
alcohol.
a beautiful story.
Thank you, Michelle. Yeah, I mean, you could be a person that came from an alcoholic.
No.
You were neglected, you were abused, God forbid, molested. These are all trauma responses that are going to show up in your adult relationships. So we have to be really mindful of that.
Absolutely. Right, exactly. And there are so many, there are a lot of, like you said, there are a lot of groups, and codependence groups, which can be helpful as well, but they're primarily geared towards, children of alcoholics or family members of alcoholics.
Right. That's why I formed my group, because not only did I get the trauma therapy I needed, but I also found great support in support groups like the one that I have created. And there's nothing more powerful than knowing that other people have been through what you've been through. I mean, when I was a single mother, I joined a single parent group. When I was married to an alcoholic, Al-Anon. But there are specific things for love addicts and people that have been in toxic relationships. And that is my passion, to support them. I mean, last night we had our group coaching call, and one person, from 2 months, and I'm not saying it's from the group, but she started doing tapping, and she started, healing this stuff, and she's doing fantastic. And it's nice to know that other people go through what you go through, and that there's transformation on the other side.
Beautiful. Can you talk a little bit more about your group and other ways that you've helped people?
Well, we get together once a month for our call. I also do trauma psychotherapy, where I, do somatic work, where we get in our bodies and we release that trauma that's been held. I also do the tapping. I do some polyvagal work, where we learn how to regulate our nervous system, because for any addict, they're not comfortable in their own skin.
Right.
It doesn't matter if it's drugs, sex, shopping. They can't hold and contain, ground themselves in a comfortable way. And so we have to learn these self-soothing tools so we can sit with ourselves. I mean, for me, it was like, I don't want to feel pain. I'm just going to go find myself another guy. If you smell good, that's what I'm going to do.
Right.
We have to sit for a minute, and we have to be able to sit with ourselves. And so that's part of what I do, is I teach people self-soothing tools. And I'm very blessed. We're blessed because we get to help people, right?
That's so true, Sherry. I mean, my goodness, isn't that amazing? By the way, folks, if you just tuned in here, my special guest today, Sherry Gaba, and she has done so much to help other people, as you've heard. She's a licensed psychotherapist, life coach, media relationship expert. You've seen her all over in various media venues. And we're talking about her books in general, and particularly her latest book, Love Smacked: How to Stop the Cycle of Relationship Addiction, Codependency, and Toxic Partnerships. And it just seems like it's almost like happening so much more these days. What with the COVID coming on, as we talked about, and now and people are still hanging on to these toxic relationships because it's just so comfortable. And like you said, we get codependent, and it's really difficult to get out of those relationships as well. So
can get out of the relationship.
Yeah, exactly. So do you think what I see, let me just tell you what I see, and then I think you'll agree with me. A lot of these reality shows, the media really does depict a lot of overly obsessive relationships.
You think like The Bachelor.
Oh my God. I mean, that's not good for young women. It's not healthy to watch that.
It's kind of amazing. These things are still going on, but it is what it is. It sells. I mean, it does sell. I mean, and but they also have remember Fatal Attraction, of course.
Oh my God. Yes. Yeah.
It's all about obsessive love, or Beyonce movie called Obsessed.
Right. Exactly.
So I think the media definitely plays into all of this.
Sure.
And like I said earlier, I think it just starts with the princesses. That's where it ends.
It does. Snow White, right? She got kissed by the prince to wake her up.
And now there's Pocahontas.
No, that is really that's
Ariel, and I'm telling you, there must have been like I think my granddaughter, she has a princess T-shirt. It has like 8 different princesses.
Right.
And how can you take that away now? I mean, what are you going to do? But it's still that idea that someone is going to make their life better, and we got to work with these kids and really teach them. And it starts with you, a connection with yourself. Nothing outside of you is going to fix you.
Right, exactly. And it is. I mean, anything for that matter, you're so right, Sherry. Anything, any kind of, I want to get a new car so I can impress other people. I want to get this so I can I want other people to like me. So I'm going to get something outside of me. I'm going to get a person who's going to love me, and that will make me all better.
Yeah, well, look at where we live in California, Los Angeles.
Yeah.
Surgery and having to, I mean, it's just not like this in other places. I've been visiting Florida a lot because I'm planning on moving there part-time, and it's so different. I mean, people are just regular people. They're not, it's not about, what you weigh or I mean, yes, we should eat healthy, but organic food isn't like, on the menu necessarily.
Yeah, right, exactly.
I'm not putting down organic food or anything. We're just
no.
We're obsessed with looking beautiful, and somehow that's going to make us feel better. And if we look younger, that's going to make us feel better. And it's crazy.
It is crazy, and it is media driven. So much of it, and again, getting attention from outside, So social media, because of COVID again, has been going crazy. And I know you've worked with a lot of patients who are really looking for partners on social media. So that's a whole different subject here. But I mean, you're very savvy in terms of
about digital dating.
Yeah.
And so I would say for a love addict, that's a pretty scary territory, because when you go on these apps, for instance, there's a really good chance you're going to be ghosted. You're going to be swiped away.
Oh, boy.
And so you really have to, again, hold your center. And if you're going to go on those apps, you have to just say that is part of being on this app. It has nothing to do with me, because it's a kid. And I hear this over and over again.
Yes.
It's like being a kid in a candy store, and you're just, you don't understand. I'm having this conversation that this person seemed really interested, and now they disappeared. Like, what's up with that? That is what it is. So if you can't, if that's not safe for you, and if the rejection doesn't feel, and it really isn't personal rejection, but it might trigger those feelings of rejection. If you have early issues of abandonment or trauma, then don't go on the apps. You've got to find other ways to find people. You can go play pickleball. I mean, whatever.
Right.
I took up outrigger canoeing, and I made friends that way, and that was a fantastic sport for me.
Yes.
And the thing is, it's about connection. So it's not really just about finding someone. It's about connection. Like, I'm connected to other people, and we all need that. And the COVID really, really made a lot of us isolate. I mean, I'm just as guilty of that isolation sometimes.
Sure. I mean, we've had to, if we're smart, to do that, just to isolate and all. And that's really good information, about sort of what to look for and what, what not to react to, just to know what you're dealing with if you insist on doing, social media dating and online dating and all that. Because I mean, you don't really know anyone. And it's not, you can't take any of it personally, really. You're just talking to someone.
And on the other side of things, you can find someone too. I mean,
you sure can.
I'm certainly not against it. I just think you do it in a mindful, thoughtful way, and to understand, what it's about. The other thing I want to say is, and I think you'll appreciate this as a media person, and a therapist, is that watch, the people that you watch on social media. Who are they? What is their background? Do they have a license? And I have, my feed is Codependency Curious on Instagram, and I'm
good.
Sorry, I'm coughing. Also.
No, that's okay. I have my tea too.
But be careful who you're hiring, who you're working with. What is their background? Because there's a lot of noise on social media about narcissist abuse and toxic relationships and codependency. So, be mindful, be discerning. Who am I going to listen to? Because there's so much social media out there on the subject.
Right, exactly. There really is a lot of information. So what is trauma bonding? That's something that I'm always interested in. And I'd like people to talk more about that.
Sure. So trauma bonding, there's 3 different types of trauma bonds. There can be the type where you find someone in your life that you have similar background. So when I married the alcoholic, he had severe abandonment issues, and so did I. So imagine us, we're bonded together by this past.
Right.
The other type could be, let's say you were abused by your parents. So the siblings become trauma bond because their parents were unavailable or were abusive. So you as siblings, like I remember my ex, his sister could do no wrong
Oh,
because
yes.
they had these horrible parents. So even if the sister was abusive or the sister was, stealing money from him, it didn't matter because it was his sister and they had this bond from this horrible childhood. And then the other trauma bond is being in a relationship where there's the ups and downs, and the person is loving 1 minute and the next minute they're taking it away, or they're giving and then they're there's this magnetic field that sort of
right.
And with the talk, when you talked about gaslighting earlier, we call it cognitive dissonance, where there's this action and what they say do not match. And so you actually become addicted in this relationship, this high activated relationship of ups and downs. Abusive relationships have these trauma bonds just because of the nature of the abuse.
Yes.
Of the highs and lows of the being 1 minute and then discarding or devaluing the next minute. So you're always looking, especially with a narcissist or a toxic person, you're always looking for that validation again. Like, I want to go back to how it was when we first met. It's never going to be that, because now it's a whole other cycle to it. But that is the trauma bond. And you actually get addicted to the peptides of the trauma bond. And so that's why people will say, well, why didn't you leave him? Well, you didn't leave him or her because it was really hard, because you were bonded. You had this really severe bonding. So it's very real, and it's really important for people not to feel bad or shameful if they have trouble getting out of this very manipulative relationship.
Boy, is that true. A lot of people who come to me say, I've been doing a lot of online reading about toxic people. And, I've read this thing about Axis 2 cluster B personality disorders.
Oh, don't you love it?
Right. So they start, and I mean, it's valid in a way, but they start saying, I think I'm married, or I think I'm dating a borderline, or someone who has narcissistic PD, or histrionic, or antisocial. It doesn't necessarily mean that someone has all of these DSM diagnoses in order to be a narcissist, right? Or
right. Like basically the real, the definition is they lack empathy.
Yes.
You're dealing with someone, their brain is wired differently. My mother, after my father died, met a man who was a 100% full-blown narcissist. It was all about him. He came in and he was also a con man or a sociopath, and he went in and manipulated this older woman who was grieving. Aww. And that's a full-blown narcissist. But there are people that can have traits. But the truth is, it doesn't really matter if you're in this toxic situation and you're uncomfortable and you're being abused. It doesn't really matter what the label is. It's like, well, how do I feel when I'm in this relationship? Do I feel secure, or am I living in a crazy-making relationship? Right. Because like I said earlier, we always want to work towards being in a secure, attached relationship. But yes, people will throw out these labels. And that's why I brought up the social media thing, because you got to be, really careful where you're getting your information.
It's really true. Exactly. And people, of course, everyone has a PR campaign if they have a website, or, if you see them and check them out, which everybody does when they're starting to get to know someone online on their Facebook or whatever their Instagram social media is or something. But like you said, don't buy into everything you're seeing. You still need to take a while to get to know someone.
Do your homework before you are a therapist. I didn't know I don't want to make this about, other experts out there. Yeah. There are a lot of people that have been in these narcissistic relationships, and suddenly they're a narcissistic abuse expert. And that's
okay.
Yeah. So we just want to be aware.
And you studied for years and years, and have been helping people, a therapist. And by the way, guys, in case you just tuned in, this is Sherry Gaba sitting next to me, actually virtually. And we're talking about her latest book. It's called Love Smacked. I love that so much. How to Stop the Cycle of Relationship Addiction, Codependency, and Toxic Partnerships. And we can also talk about her other book as well. And she also has a free book online that you can get. Yay. Really helpful as well.
you have like do you have a banner that you can put that up, or do you put it on the?
You know what
Where
I
do you
will I will put that in the archives. You know, if
Oh.
you'd like more information with your website, you know, where people can link onto your website and get all that great information.
Yeah, the free ebook is called Narcissistic Partners and Obsessive Love. So you can find out if you're in that kind of relationship.
Nice.
And it also has a quiz, and you can go to sherrygaba.com/NP quiz, sherrygaba.com/NP quiz. And then if you want to join the membership, it's wakeuprecovery.com/IG1. wakeuprecovery.com/IG1. It's $1 trial to see if, you can check out the
great.
I know it's and I mean, I became a social worker not to make a lot of money. I do it because I love it, and I love bringing this message out. And when I get on a coaching call with people, last night someone was from New Zealand, someone was from Australia, and I feel so blessed that
Right, exactly.
these resources. Well, you're doing the same thing just by being online right now. I mean,
that's the goal here, is really trying to help people. And, it's all we can do, is our podcasts and of course your amazing books. By the way, besides Love Smacked, you can also check out Sherry's book. It's called Infinite Recovery: 6 Steps of Mindfulness, Positive Thinking, and the Law of Attraction to Break Free from Addiction. And that will also be up in the archives, guys, so you can check that out. And you're so welcome. Thank you, Sherry. The Law of Attraction, oh my goodness, and that's a whole other, I've been preaching that for years. But I mean,
well, if you think about it, really, if you think of even like a 12-step program, that is attraction. Like anything that is putting out that positivity, you walk out feeling energized, you're at a higher vibration. Even being on this podcast, anybody that's listening to us right now, you're doing the law of attraction because you're getting this great information. I mean, you're not bypassing the pain, that you have the ability, you're learning about it, you're acknowledging it, you're working it through, and you're also able to get great information.
Oh,
and that's the law of attraction.
No, exactly. It really is. It's that which you put out, sometimes you get back.
We create our realities by our actions and our thoughts, not just our thoughts, but also our actions and our belief systems, and if you're walking around believing, oh, I'll never find anybody, or I'm going to be alone forever, or blah, 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 which were some of my limiting beliefs, that's exactly what you're going to create. So you got to create new neural pathways, create new messages, but don't bypass the work that you need to do. If you got to do that trauma work, get a great therapist and do the work.
Right, exactly. And as you said, Sherry, it all starts here. It all starts with, and I think that's really tough for a lot of people to do, is try to love that which you are first, or even like that which you are. Because when you start doing that, then you realize that you deserve that. You have to do that. So
true. And it's connecting to you.
Right.
And some people are like, well, what are you talking about connecting? It's about having an intimate relationship with yourself, because if you don't, you can't be intimate with somebody else. I used to blame, I was with this unavailable person, or this unavailable person, or this person was toxic, or this person was an alcoholic. Well, you know what? I picked them, and I picked
There you go.
I picked them.
Right.
But it was because I didn't have the connection to me, people that weren't connected to themselves.
Exactly. And that's the thing. And people, again, they ask you, I'm sure, why do I keep picking the same kind of people? And it's like, well, you're kind of codependent, and that's the way it works. Codependent people and narcissists, there is an attraction, because I think that narcissist personality has, antennae, that it whoop, 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 all the signals are coming through.
Well, think about it. A codependent love addict wants to be needed. Their whole worth is based on you needing me. And the narcissist, or not to overuse the word narcissist, a toxic person has this thing called a narcissist supply need. Like, I need lots of attention. So if you need to be needed, and this person needs lots of attention, you're that's what happened with my mother. My mother was grieving my dad. This man financially, physical, and every which way abused her because he needed something from her. Yeah, well, it happened.
Sure.
And I share the story because it can happen at
Yeah.
any age. It can happen when you're
Yep.
old. It can happen when you're young. You got to,
Yeah.
they're out there. So if you're needy and you'll settle for anything. And in my mother's case, she was grieving.
Yes.
That's make it really, really feel like you can be with yourself. My mother
Yes.
lost that ability when my dad died, and
Sure.
he just came, scooped her up. But it can happen to anybody. So that's why we've got to really have
Yeah.
the ability to be with ourselves, connect
Yes.
with ourselves.
Exactly. It's so true. I had a, similar situation with my mom. I mean,
Good. Okay.
my dad had passed the same thing. We moved her to, a smaller actually facility, a really nice one of those very upscale. So she started to get a little dementia, a little bit.
That's where my
And
mom started too, and she's
right.
story.
And I remember, the place, I go there every other day. It was really close. It's really close to where I live and it's very upscale. But the thing is my mom started talking about her boyfriend. And I'm
Uh-oh.
saying, her boyfriend. And it was one of the people who, I believe he was one of the chefs in the kitchen. It was really, again, upscale, a dining room chef. And he was younger and he knew my mom had some wealth
Yes.
and started trying to sort of court her and compliment her. And it got creepy. It got really creepy.
Oh,
So
yeah.
I know, same kind of thing though, but she was very codependent. She was very needy. She was ready. And this guy was a master,
Wow. I hope she had a good trust.
Oh, she did.
Right, and that's so did my
Right.
mother, because you got to go right in there and you got to, because this happens
Yeah.
all the time with caregivers.
Right.
If someone's at home and they have
Mhm.
some caregiver coming
Yeah.
in, they'll have that person change their trust or their will, right?
Right.
This is getting off topic, but it
No,
kind
it
of
is.
because predator
Right.
toxic individuals, that's their job.
Exactly.
Want what they
Exactly.
need. They have this narcissistic supply need, whether it's financial or attention or whatever it
Exactly.
is, physical.
Yes.
We got to talk, Michelle. We're going to definitely.
We do. We have to talk. We absolutely do, Sherry, have to talk. But something that I have heard a lot of people tell me is that I'm really working on breaking free. I'm really drawing boundaries. I'm pulling back. I won't take this anymore. But there is, and we talked a little bit about it earlier, and this is why you have your workshop and all your books and all the help that you do and your therapy. The withdrawal is really, I mean, I don't think people realize how hard the withdrawal is from that toxic relationship.
Well,
Um, yeah,
think of like for an addict, we always talk about they're always chasing that first high. Well,
yeah,
toxic relationship with a love addict or codependent, they're
yeah,
always chasing that first love high. They're always
right,
looking for that. So that's why it's so hard to break, because they
right.
finally meet someone, it's like, oh, I finally got what I've always wanted here. So yeah, it's very addictive. Now the way to overcome it is you just start looking at all your relationships as opportunities to heal and grow, become more self-aware. Like we've been talking about this whole hour, starting within ourselves, not looking
Yes,
outside.
right,
Every relationship truly is a manifestation of our relationship with ourselves. So if you're picking toxic people, you probably have a toxic relationship with yourself. And I don't mean to be harsh, but that really,
no, it's true.
so we got to really kind of unpack that. Like I did the work. You got to find a great trauma therapist. You've got to really start accepting and welcoming this process, that it doesn't
Mhm,
happen overnight. It's a work in progress. You got to unpack that childhood stuff. Got to start building healthy connections with yourself on a emotional level, a spiritual level, a physical level. You got to find the light within, and you have to start reconditioning yourself to become
yeah,
addicted to your healthy self,
yeah,
with looking at yourself as
right.
valuable and colorful and vibrant and strong and resourceful. You've got it all. You just got to find it.
It's so true. And I want to, sort of appeal to relatives of people. I have a sister who's amazing. She's really awesome. And if you have a sibling or a cousin or another relative or what, son or daughter, if they're going to listen to you, who who might be in a toxic relationship, you can really try to help them by suggesting things like, Sherry, your Wake Up Recoveries relationship coaching program and the kind of therapy you give, and also turn them on to the book, Love Smack, that kind of thing. Don't be an observer. Try to be lovingly involved, with them as well.
It's a
I don't
good
know.
point. And also sometimes
Yeah.
what's really scary is these toxic relationships can become violent. So we really
Yeah.
do kind of, if you're noticing that this person you love has this controlling relationship, or the person's being isolated or not allowed to be around other people, or controlling what they wear or how they dress. I mean, these are some of the signs you might see in someone that you love. So definitely you want to help support them for sure.
Exactly. Oh, that is so true. I mean, it makes so much sense. And again, it's just really being there for someone and understanding. Something else that I wanted to talk about briefly too was, I have, mm, young women primarily who come to me, and they'll say, "Well, he's not physically violent. He just screams at me for off and on. He'll just start ranting and, raging about, things that I do that don't please him, that kind of thing." And I say, well, then, there is a difference, of course, between physical and mental abuse, but I mean, in a way, it's not. It's really the physical, of course. You
You don't
you
see
need,
the signs, you don't
yeah,
see the scratches,
yeah,
but it's
exactly.
just
Hmm.
as
Yeah,
toxic. It's just as
yeah,
demeaning, and
exactly. Yeah,
it's just as devaluing. So absolutely, verbal abuse,
mm,
it's unacceptable, and then you got to look
yes.
at what am I accepting
Hmm.
as unacceptable behavior, and that's where you got to really say, okay, what are my boundaries? What
Right.
and again, if you still have codependency traits and love addicted traits and early trauma issues, you don't even maybe know what your boundaries are, and that's where it
Right.
starts, is figuring out like what is okay, where's my line in the sand. So I think that's
Mhm.
a really good point.
Well,
Verbal
yeah.
abuse can be just as toxic. Absolutely.
Absolutely. We're taking in that hateful, negative energy that others are projecting onto you, usually because of their trauma in the past or
What happens is codependents think they can fix it, just like
right.
they can fix their alcoholic
Sure.
husband, or they
Sure,
can
exactly.
change them. They think they can somehow, if I just do it this way, or if I do it that
Right.
way, or I wear
Right.
this dress, or whatever they think. And I mean, this is someone with very low self-esteem, but
Sure.
you cannot fix them. You can. Unfortunately, women are still raised to think that that's their job.
Exactly.
Men too.
Yeah.
Plenty of men too that have those ideas in their mind that somehow they're going to change that person. It's not your job to change anybody. It really.
Exactly. It's not their job. And before, we're going to have to get going pretty soon, but I just wanted to let people know about you, Sherry Gaba, again, and your book, Love Smacked: How to Stop the Cycle of Relationship Addiction and Codependency to Find Everlasting Love. And also Infinite Recovery: 6 Steps of Mindfulness, Positive Thinking, and the Law of Attraction to Break Free from Addiction. And also Sherry's free ebook, Narcissistic Partners and Obsessive Love ebook and quiz. Yay. Take the quiz, guys. Right. And we'll have all this up on the website here on LA Talk Radio under On the Couch with Dr. Michelle. And
Thank you. Wow. Thank you.
oh, oh, you're so welcome, Sherry. And don't forget, by the way, Sherry's membership coaching program, Wake Up Recovery, an online group coaching program that applies the principles of positive psychotherapy, law of attraction, mindfulness, codependence, love addicts, toxic relationships. And it's a $1 a month trial. I mean, how can you go wrong with that? That's the best.
Exactly. It's actually a week,
I
$1
love that.
a week to check it out. And then it goes to $27. So how can you go wrong? You're right.
Sounds great. Which you sure learn a lot with it, I'll tell you.
Yeah.
Sherry, thank you so much for being here with me. You're terrific.
My pleasure. And thank you for what you're doing in the world too, Michelle.
All right. Take good care, and we'll talk later.
Uh-huh.
All right, everybody. Thanks for being here on the couch with me, Dr. Michelle, and it's been a pleasure. As I always say, as Sherry was saying too, do take care of yourself first. and then you'll be great for others. Not narcissistic. It's the way it works. Have a great day. Bye-bye.
You're listening to On the Couch with Dr. Michelle, right here on LA Talk Radio.